not totally blind.
We're
Okay.
recording.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, well, we're going to get started with this wonderful interview with Judge Leonia. Did I say that right?
Leonia.
No, Leonia, right?
Yes.
Leonia. Right. So
That's
we're going to
okay.
get started. She is the author of Your Honor, which is a powerful memoir that I had the honor of reading over the weekend. And I want to thank you for even just being able, having the strength to put your story on paper. Now, if you guys don't know me, I am Sylvia Hubbard. I am author and founder of Motown Writers Network. We are a 20-year organization that helps readers get to their literary goals and get writers to their literary goals and connect readers to Michigan authors. And one of our interviews for the month of December will be with Judge Lloyd, which I am just honored. After reading it, it's like, oh my God, this person is like amazing. Like, you have a cape underneath all those clothes, because it's got to be somewhere to be able to go through what you went through. And like, oh, but I always say the strongest always can hide struggles that you will never know. So that was just wow. I was like, wow. So why was it? Let's get into it. Give us a little bit about the book, in your words, and why was it so important to write your memoir and share your experiences?
Well, as you know, it's a memoir, and it's about my sister and I. And it was really important for me to write this book because my sister and I had planned years ago to write a book together. And there were just so many things happening to us, some beyond the world of understanding. How could these things be happening to these two girls? Okay. How could good things happen and then crushing things happen? But the thing is that it always worked out. It always worked out, but you had to stay the path. And one of the things that Leona and I both had said is that people have to understand that life sometimes is going to be a struggle, but you can't stop fighting. You have to keep on fighting. And she said, people have to understand we weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouth. You know, it's far from that. But sometimes when people used to see us, they would think we were. You know, they would think, oh, they must live the charmed life. I even had defendants say, oh, well, Judge Lloyd, you don't understand how hard it is. I said, don't you ever tell me I don't understand. Right. And I gave her an example of how my sister and I, for 2 months, ate grits and bacon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner as we studied for the bar exam. And we lived in a place where when we heard gunshots, we hit the floor. And that was just a way of life for us to get to where we had to go. And that was one of the things that we wanted people to understand, is that you got to go through some struggles to get to where you want to be. Right. And sometimes you may not understand how clear you're going to get to that path is going to be. Mm-hmm. And you might even think, I'm going down the right path. This is the path I think I'm supposed to be on. And then all of a sudden, something happens. Your world caves in, it crumbles in, you fall down. Well, what do? You get back up. Right. And I don't care how many times you fall down. I don't care how many times you get hit in the face with something. It's no matter what. No matter what.
Definitely.
I'm sorry.
No, I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
I was like, definitely, because we get a lot of authors who do have to write their memoir, and they get to that point in the book where, because in order to put it on paper, you have to relive it. You have to go back through that journey again. So they get to that point and they say, well, I don't want to write it. Or while they're writing, they're going through they're still sometimes going through part of those tough times. During all of that time where you were doing the writing process and just going through the motions of you had to go through you had to go through, like, people have to see this, people have to read this, because you had to go through relive some really hard times. Yes. How did you get through it? How did you make your writing process so you could hit the end? Because that is what a lot of writers struggle, is that they don't want to either go through it, they get in it, and then they stop, or they never complete it.
and I can understand that because it took me 19 years to finally write this book. When my sister died, my secretary, who was really one of my closest friends, said, Judge, you're still going to write the book, aren't you? She knew we talked about this book. But it became different for me because of what I'd been through with her dying and how she died. And as she looked at me, she knew my heart was heavy. And I said, I'm going to write the book. I promised my sister I'm going to write this book. And I said, and so every time we had Christmas vacation, we'd be off for 2 weeks from the court. She said, Judge, you going to write it? I said, I'll think about it. And so, and then next thing you know, 5 years are gone. Next thing you know, 10 years are gone. And she would look at me and she said, Judge, you have to write the book now. You got to get started. And it was about maybe 12 years later, I came in with an outline 2 weeks later. I said, I got an outline. And so she said, well, good, Judge, I'll type it. I said, I couldn't get past going back. That was the problem, going back. When I went through and I put pictures together, and as I was putting, I have thousands of pictures of my sister and I, and as I was putting pictures and scanning them, I started crying, and I kept crying, and I kept crying. And I just thought I was through with all those tears, because as I tell you in the book, I never thought I would stop crying. I never thought I would stop crying. I had to have a counselor that had to help to get to that point where I would stop. I told her I would never stop crying. She says, yes, you will. I said, no, I won't. No, I won't. I won't stop crying. So then to say now to dredge it back up, and not just dredge up that with my sister, but with my mother. And the pain and some of the things that she went through as each time she changed the personality, what she did to us, how it inflicted on it. But I had her. I had my sister going through that, but then I didn't have her anymore. And so, wanting me to do this by myself and to go through this, just gathering the pictures. And I told my secretary, I gathered the pictures, and she said, but it made me stop for the next 2 or 3 years. I couldn't. And so a lady did a screenplay on me and my sister a few years ago. I had to give her information. And then I said, oh, this is almost as bad as me writing, because I have got to give this lady information. So I would write little chunks and send to her, and then I would cry. I would just cry. And so, I finally finished that with her several years ago, maybe 3 years ago, something like that, before I started the book. And then I said, the screenplay she wrote didn't touch the essence of what me and Leona were about. And I know you're under a parameter of how you can write and how many pages and all that stuff for a screenplay.
Right.
So I said, I promised her I've got to do it. Then my secretary got ill. She went in the hospital. And I said, I'm going to write the book, Florence. I'm going to write. She said, okay, Judge, you got to get started. Let me know. So I came up with the first draft, and I said, Florence, she's in the hospital. I said, let me send this to you. And she said, just read it to me, Judge. Just read it. So I'm reading chapters on the phone, and I'm crying, and I'm reading, and she's laughing at certain sections. She said, I was there. I said, I know you were. So yeah, it's hard. And were there days that I had to take a break, a mental break, and just sit back? Yes. It would be, I had a cottage in Canada. And when I got through writing the chapter, maybe 4 chapters on my sister's passing, I had to go up there and just debrief. I had to just get away from this house. I had to get away from everything. And knowing I had to pick the pace back up and continue going. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
We started out with me and this other lady as she was going to be a ghostwriter, but after the first draft and the beta readers looked at it, they said, well, we don't see enough about the twins. I said, I told you, you can't put a lot of drug court stories in there. So then I started to write, and I took over, and I pulled out stuff, and I kept pulling out stuff. And then I said, this is what the essence of, I said, I have to take them there. I had a girlfriend said, Leonia, okay, you're going to write that section about your sister, send it to me when you do. She said, because see, I remember you at the funeral. I remember as you were rocking your body. I don't even remember rocking my body. She said she was watching me. And she's a judge and she's sitting with 90 other judges. And she said, I looked at you and I wondered what was going through your head. And she said, because I could barely keep it together. And I said, she said, so I want you to take me there. So I did a draft and I sent it to her. And she said, this is nice, but you didn't take me there. And I said, I wrote it again, sent it to her. She said, this is better, but you didn't take me there. I said,
Oh, good.
okay.
You're gonna do it
And I
now.
went to writing and I started crying and I just cried as I wrote and I'm pecking away and I'm wiping tears and I'm pecking away. And this took me a few days to do all this. And so I sent it to her.
Oh.
And as I said, let me see what she said. She said, you took me there and I haven't stopped crying yet. She said, I'm writing you to let you know I am there. And her daughter told me not too many days ago, she said, when my mother was reading the book, had her reading it, she wouldn't stop crying. We said, what's wrong with you? She said, I'm reading Leonia's book. And she said, well, you already know all that stuff. And she said, not this. I don't know this.
Right.
I learned I had to take my readers with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one who could do that was me.
Right. Yeah.
I don't tell you what I'm feeling, what my thoughts are when you tell me as a little Black girl that I'm not smart enough really to go to law school. How do I respond to that? What do you mean? Your son's white, so he's good enough, but I'm Black and okay, you're doing well in education in college, and that's good for you. And that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
I said, as I said in the book, 8 years later, I didn't know I'd see her again. 8 years
Right.
later, my last day in law school, my last exam, I said, I got to go see her. I got to let her know. No, I can't quietly sit back and say, well, it's good enough for me to know.
Right.
And I don't care what she says. I don't care if she says nothing, but she ended up saying that, just looking at me and staring at me. I said, but I know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I wanted the readers to understand how I felt being judged like that, how I felt as a little girl when I was judged like that for a geometry class.
Mm-hmm.
And how did I feel? So when I went back to rewriting, I then took sections of it and I said, you've got to know how I felt as that little girl, because it affected everything I did from that point on in life. I wasn't afraid to fail. I wasn't afraid that if I try this, how's this gonna look? Or can I? No. If I'm gonna be judged before you even know what I can do, then heck, I might as well do what I think I know I can do.
Right.
What about anybody judging me? I'm going for it.
Mm.
And like Leona and I used to say, if you could see it, then you could be it. When I was a kid, I could see myself being a lawyer. When I became a lawyer and I was in front of judges and I saw some things that were totally unfair, I said, I can be a judge and I can do better than that. I want fairness in the courtroom, not just for the litigants, but for the lawyers too.
Right.
A lawyer shouldn't have to go in there and battle a judge. And I was told one time by this lady who was represented by a Caucasian lawyer, we both were representing people who were getting divorced. We both were asking for the same thing. Neither one of the ladies' husbands showed up. I had to fight tooth and nail to get everything for her and her 5 kids. And I was determined, I'm going to get what I came here for. I am drafting the judgment ahead of time for you to sign, because I'm not leaving this courtroom.
Right, without
what
what you want.
And no, absolutely. I'm not leaving. I had the judgment. So when I'm going back and forth with this judge, and he's giving me a rough time. Well, how do we know he knows that she's here? I said, you have the proof of service. Isn't that legally enough what you need?
Right.
And he looked at me and she said, oh, well, I can tell you, we talked this morning on the phone. He told me, give me a call when you come back from court, let me know how it went. I said, is that good enough? And you know, and it went on like that until finally I got everything I asked for, the support, all of the things that were important for those 5 kids. And he said, well, when you draft a judgment, Miss Lloyd, you can send it here to the court and I will look it over and I will sign it. Now, that means he has to remember in his head what happened that day. And he may not get to what that mail that comes in for 30 days or more. I said, I got it right here.
Right, because you don't want it to go anywhere.
Again, be prepared. Be prepared. And I was prepared. And I didn't care I had to fight. When I got in the, and he signed it, when I got in the hallway with my client who said she was going to celebrate with some champagne that night, I said, well, you got your paper in your hand right now, because I had plenty copies. And I said, this other lady walked up, she said, I heard how the judge gave you a hard time. She said, but my lawyer asked for the same thing. And we were finished in 5 minutes. She said, you asked for the same exact thing that I wanted for mine. She said, but he wrote, I said, I didn't care if he took me through the ringer because I was determined to get what my client deserved.
Right.
I took this is the attitude Leona and I both had representing people. And I took that same attitude to the bench. You know, I understood when I got on that bench, words were power.
Right.
My words were power. I could make lawyers feel miserable. I could make defendants feel miserable, or I could uplift people.
Right. And you definitely did with this book. I really enjoyed it. So as you were so once you hit the end and then you had to go through the publishing process, what lessons would you share with other authors?
Well, I went through like a hybrid publishing process where I picked a publishing company, and of course there's fees that you pay as they take you step by step through the publishing process. And there's a lot for a new writer that doesn't know what things that you have to go through.
Overwhelming.
It can be extremely even with them holding your hand. But they were very nice, and they were like, you know, if you sounded like you were about ready to just, they would say, no, this is fine. This is fine. What we can do is this, and we can do is that. And so this is the process. You know, I would be in one department, then I'd finish in that department, then this one had to cross all the T's and dot all the I's, legally to make sure every single thing was correct. From pictures that were so old, my great grandmother had been that. I don't know where her picture came from. You know,
right, because they got to make sure everything is covered.
So it was that process, and then the editorial process, which was probably the key process for a writer. You don't have to pay for that step. You can pay for that step. And I said, I've come this far. I want to make sure that what I write is what I intended to write. So and it took them 8 weeks to go through this thing. And when I saw it, when it came back with all these red lines and circles and stuff, I said, and then but it made me think. They went through it that way, and they would ask questions. And so I would answer the questions, and then I said, wait a minute. And then I would rewrite. I'm starting to rewrite. I'm rewriting. And I'm like, I understand now what they're asking me. It's the bigger picture that I'm putting it to the world, as opposed to, you know, just my smaller world that I live in. And so I said, even one question that looked so innocent, I told a little boy, he did well on his report card. That was one of the things that I said. I said, if you come back, I said, the grades have to be raised up. I said, you got like a D average. How high can you raise your grades? If you really tried, if you put 100% towards your work. That was a typical question I would ask. And he said, I could get a 3-point. I said, well, I'm gonna hold you to it. And I said, this is the day the card marking comes up. You all come in the week after that, bring the card. No unexcused absences, no absences that are not signed by, and his mother was, you know, standing right there. And then I said, the boy came back, got the 3-point average. I've even had him raise it to 4. And I had everybody in the courtroom clapping for him. The bottom line was, I knew if I could see you in a much more positive light, I can make yourself that way. I knew the power of words. I knew that if I, in a position that I am, tell you that I believe you can do it, you're going to believe that you can do it, and you're going to work towards that goal. And so kids
Right.
came in, and then when I saw the card and I said, oh, you did what I asked? I'm going to dismiss this case. So it never happened. And so his mother said, hold on, Judge Lloyd, hold on. I said, well, yes. And she said, can we not be so fast about that? And I wrote about it, but this is what happened. And I said, what do you mean? She said, I have never seen this boy get grades like this in life. She said, can we just continue this? I said, it can't go more than 2 years. She said, that's fine. So I looked at the little fella and I said, well, that means you're going to be back here next term. He said, okay, Judge, I'll see you then. And he said, bye, waved at me and smiled. And I smiled at him as he walked out the door. Now, you know what the editorial people said? I know you had to feel good. They said, because that was very untypical of a judge. And they said, and to make that person grow. Now, I just looked at first, I smiled and I said, wait a minute. They don't know how I really feel. I know how
the
I
internal
feel.
struggle. Yeah. The
And
internal voice.
I rewrote an additional piece saying that I felt great because this is why I took the place on the bench, to make a positive, effective change. This young man represents exactly what I was talking about when I said, when you come into my courtroom, I want it to be the empowerment zone. I want you to walk out better than the way you walked in. And you may come in several different times. I may have you coming back, but the point is you are going to be changed because that's the way I see it. That's what I'm supposed to be.
But that's what a courtroom is supposed to do in a real world.
I know.
In a utopia, that is what a courtroom is actually supposed to do. When you walk in, you should be changed from when you walk out, not like the same circumstances that you are, or even worse. So yes, I'm glad that, and that's what, go ahead.
People are scared. People are scared of you. Like one lady was just shaking in front of me and I hadn't said a word to her, I think I'd been on the bench maybe about 3 years. And so she was shaking and I said, ma'am, what's wrong? And she said, I'm just nervous. I said, okay, this is what I want you to do. Take a seat. I told my officer, get her a cup of water. I want you to calm down. I just want you to watch the proceedings. Just watch how the proceedings go. Just remember one thing, I'm not going to put you in jail. I'm not going to lock you up. So that's gone. So you just relax and you just watch me. So she said, okay. So she watched and I just did cases. I knew that the power that I had and the power off the bench and how I talked to people connected with people sitting out there, not just the person in front of me. And I've had defendants come up and say, excuse me, I don't want a trial anymore. I want to plead guilty. And I said, are you sure? They said, yes, because I've watched you and you're fair. See, so this lady, by the time I called her back up, she was smiling at me. And she said, I'm ready. I said, okay. No, court is not normal. That's not a normal experience for people.
No, it's not.
And we, people who work, they take it for granted. We just come to work and it was like,
that's it.
But not everybody else. And so I learned to come in and say, good morning to everybody. I'd be smiling and folks would look at me like, she's smiling. And I would laugh. I'd even sing sometimes on the bench in drug court. I had a box that you were going to jail for a while. You were using some drugs, you didn't go. And I said, to the hotel. And then they would look at me and I said, that same Nelly song is getting hot in here. I looked at them and then I looked at my secretary. I said, should I keep singing? She said, no, Judge. I said, all right. Because I can't sing. But
okay, so for the listeners that we have out there, tell everyone the name of the book, because we're going to ask you 2 more questions, but we're going to take like a small pause and I want you to tell them the name of the book, what your name, and how they can get in touch with you while they're listening to us.
Okay, my book is called Your Honor, Your Honor, and it's by Judge Leonia Lloyd. You can get it on Amazon.com. There is a link, and if you don't know the link, you can just easily say Judge Leonia Lloyd's book. and you will get it that way.
Yeah.
You can also go on the website, and that's www.judgeleonialoyd.com. Okay.
Okay. And so in the book selling process, as you progress from the marketing and then you had to jump into the book marketing pool, which every author hates. You either got to really love it or really hate it, but you
Right.
got to do it. How has that been? What has worked for you, especially as a memoir book writer?
Well, I'm still in the beginning throngs of that, but I started out, doing some of the things that I did before as a candidate running for judge. I put up billboards, and I did it because I know the response I got from billboards. I did even for my artists that were recording artists. I watched them go from nothing, and the record company said, no one's responding to their record. This is their hometown. This will be an embarrassment. I made them buy billboards. The record shot up to #1 in Detroit. So I knew the power of billboards. And so I did the billboards. The only thing different is I got electronic as well as the regular ones. And then the publishing company, they were sending stuff, and I was looking at stuff, but it didn't suit me. It didn't make me feel right. And so the next thing is my girlfriend, she said, hey, you need somebody who knows what they're doing. And that was
There it is. There it
Pam
is.
Perry. I didn't hear you. Oh, that was Pam
Yeah,
Perry.
you froze up a little.
Oh, I'm so
Okay.
okay. That was Pam Perry. And I got
That-
with her, and immediately the first day when I talked to her, it was almost like she read my mind, like she knew where I needed to go. She knew where I wanted
She knows.
to be. And so she was mapping it out for me. My thing is, do the work, do whatever she tells you to do. And you already know I have no problem with work ethic, okay? And do what she tells you to do, okay? If there's gonna be a problem, it's gonna be other people. It ain't gonna be me, because I'm gonna do what I'm told to do.
Right.
And that was the hardest part, is to finding that piece that fit, because I had talked to some of the publishing people that the company had, and their publicity folks and stuff, and it didn't work for me.
It was cookie cutter.
Yeah,
cookie cutter and everything.
And just oh, we were gonna send you over here to this place. It's a big fair, and it's gonna be in California. And oh, doesn't that sound great? I said, I've been to California many times. It doesn't thrill me. What is it that is there for me? I said, do you have something for Black people? And so he said, well, I said, the hesitation in your voice tells me no. Okay. So in other words, don't waste.
He forgot he was talking to a judge.
Thank you. Sometimes I forget, because I relax people a lot until I check you, boo, and then. Okay. So I said,
right.
to tell me it's going to be this, but it's really not that, and then you discover that you get there. And I said, it's not for me. But when God gears you a different way, right after that, the coronavirus came down. So all them people who bought them tickets of all that money that man was talking about, this little thing was supposed to be, it didn't even go. It never went. And so I said, now they all got to try to get their money back, and none of them gonna get their money back. So
and that would have been
I didn't hear you.
Yeah, that would have been. That's so I can understand. Like, you need to find what works for you and what you're comfortable with as an author. Because a lot of authors do get out there and they're like, they'll throw it out in the ocean and hope they, get a shark or, get a beluga whale. But you're throwing a net in the ocean, so you have to find out what works for you. Throw a net out there that's specific. And I think that's what authors have a problem with. So I'm so glad that you just explained it simply. Find out what works for you,
but
how you can work it, and then work the plan. They
make it sound good. These two other women who were talking to me, and I asked them the same thing about focusing on a Black market, et cetera. And they hit a brick wall when I said that. But they had all these videos that they show you, et cetera. And I said, okay, so let me just ask you a question. You just take and throw a lot of things out there about the artists that you represent, and you're just waiting to see what, like you said, sticks against the wall and what falls down, right? And they said, well, I said, pretty much, right? I said, I'm not interested in that. I said, uh-huh. I said, and then Reggie, my attorney, was on the phone. I said, we'll talk about it. If we need to, and that was it. And he said, no, that's not for you. I said, no. So, but
Right.
new publishers have to be aware that they're out there. In fact, I got a call about maybe 2 weeks before I contacted Pam from another guy who called me at least 6 times, claimed Amazon told him I was the person to watch. Oh, yeah. Look, what do you want? And so it's that same fare, but now it's being done differently, right? And guess what? He has a big reduction on the price to go. I said, I'm not interested. I already heard about this. Now you got no place to go but to this little tiny bookstore that you said people can have a book in for 2 weeks. I said, I'm not interested in that. And he said, oh, okay. I said, but thank you anyway. This is what you've been calling me for? Man, call me. He called me every other week. Call me every other week. I didn't know who he was.
Right. And you have to really feel it in your soul, and because if God gave you the power to put your book out there, then he's going to lead you down the path that is for you. So just don't jump on any bandwagon, kind of wait for your soul to move on that. So I like that you did that. You waited, you're like, okay, this is not me, this is not what fits for me, and this is not what is representative towards my book. And especially when it comes to memoirs, you just can't just jump in anybody's pool, because you have to make sure that once you get in there, that it spreads, because your book is your message, and you want it to get to the right ears, but you just can't throw it at anybody.
Exactly. I'm like, the wrong audience, they would care less about what happened to this little Black girl and her sister. But for other people, the responses I've got, people who cried and they laughed, and one young lady said, it inspired me. I think that I can just conquer the world. And that's what I want. I want you to read and be moved. I had one third cousin who I've never met. She bought the book and she wrote me and she said, after reading your book and after seeing what you all have been through and how much you've been through, she said, I've decided to go back to school. And she said, and I've made my decision now to do that. I had a bank manager tell me, she said, I was reading your book, Judge. I'm not finished yet, but I had to call you just to tell you that I'm telling my daughter, you get your first year in college, you gonna get this book, and well, Mama, give it to me now. No, you can't have mine. I'm gonna order you one. She said, you can't have my book, but you got to take this, because you're going to need to see when you're by yourself up there, what do you do? I said, I know I talk a lot about, when I'm going through college and the decisions I made and standing up for other people in college and things like this. My parents, they weren't there to see that. They're at home. I'm living on campus. I'm making these decisions. And I would tell my father, who was always supportive, and he said, that's right. My mother said, oh, Lord, the girl gonna get herself killed. But see, again, I wanted them to see as young people, this is how you stand up to things. This is how you recognize what discrimination is. This is how you recognize it and you fight against it. And you don't buy into it, and giving myself as an example as to what I went through, how I was challenged, and how I had to be strong and not accept. Not accept, always question, not accept. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I wanted them to learn. So when I would get this feedback from people who've read it, and those who really know me, they would read it and they said, this one girl said she was a case manager for a year with me. And she said, a little Caucasian girl, she said, I could hear the judge talking through the book. I could hear her voice coming through the book. And I said, great. My other girlfriend called, and she had already told her other girlfriend who lived in Washington to get the book. This when it first came out. She beat her to it. So she called her and she said, it took me 3 days. I finished the book. And she said, I could hear Leonia talking to me.
Right.
And I said, but that's what I wanted to achieve, because I am talking to them. I'm talking to them. I want them to understand that they have to be able to take their journey, wherever their journey is going to take them, but they can't back down. And I want them to know it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard.
Definitely.
Okay? And you got bumps in the road, you got pitfalls, but you got to keep going. And then hear how I did it. Hear how I got to this point. I fell. I got back up. I kept going. I didn't know how. You know, when my father walked out the door at the dorm, and my sister and I felt all the protection we had in the world, walked out that door. And that was real to us. We looked at each other and we really by ourselves. We can't call mama. Mama has turned into another person. Daddy, he's gone. He gave us that $50 and he called me if you need me. He meant it, but he's caught in the middle. You know,
at least you got $50. I don't think I got. I think you'll be okay. And then they just left. I'm like,
oh no.
What?
Oh, no.
But I want to thank you for joining us and sharing like the behind the scenes of Your Honor, which I want everybody to pick up. I mean, it's not just for, you know, people who want to look into your life, but it's for people who, I mean, it's for everyone pretty much who wants to get to that next level, because you really get in there and show them what you did and people can learn from that. And that's what I enjoyed about the book. Is like, you know, even though I know where I want to go, it's like this book inspired me. Like, okay, I'm going.
There you go.
I just called it out.
There you
just call it out. Like it's already, because we know it's already written. We just need that something to get us there. So I think this is just that spice that is just going to make that pot of your life perfect. So that's what I think about this book. So I want to thank you for joining us, Judge Lloyd. You have been a wonderful, wonderful guest, deep, insightful, and just powerful in telling your story. And I want to thank you for just taking that step out and doing it, because I know it was hard. And I know you struggled through it, but I mean, it was an honor to be able to see it. And now it is an honor to be able to share it with other people. So thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate your kind words, because I felt if it helps even one person, then I've done what I was supposed to do. And that's the other reason for writing it. It was to help somebody out there to know, don't get comfortable. You know, you got too much greatness in you. You know, you got to get it going again. Once you achieve a goal, keep going. That's what I wanted to do. And if it can help one person, just one.
And
or many.
I think it definitely does. So you guys pick up the book, Your Honor by Judge Lloyd. It's available on Amazon.com, and you can check out this week, which will be at the MotownBookClub.com featured, and also on our Motown.com/feature. She'll have the featured spot all month long of December. So I want to say, you guys, pick this book up, give it out as gifts, and encourage other people, especially in this time when we just need a little sunshine on those cloudy days. This is definitely going to give you that. So thank you so much. We're going to get out of here. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.